with Democratic Representative Val Demings. The two candidates debated a wide range of issues ranging from guns, natural disasters, and the economy. One of the night's most heated exchanges surrounded abortion.
And that's why every law that's out there has exceptions, including the one that she's attacking me on has exceptions. Every law I've ever passed has exceptions. We're never going to get a vote on a law that doesn't have exceptions because that's what the majority of the American people are. And I respect and understand that.
Finally, Penny Nance, CEO of the group Concerned Women for America, a conservative and evangelical nonprofit organization, says she hopes women get out to vote in the upcoming midterms and believes women are interested in issues beyond just abortion.
We're not single issue voters. If you look at polling, when you talk to women about what their concerns are, abortion's at the bottom. At the top right now is inflation and crime.
I'm Alex Gonzalez for Pacifica Network and Public News Service. Find our A-Trust indicators to support transparency and accuracy at publicnewsservice.org.
Hey, how are you? Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
Hello, this is Ellie Krug with Ellie 2.0 Radio. Now my show will be on Saturdays from 10 to 11 and replayed on Sundays from 1 to 2. You will get to the best of Ellie 2.0 with talking about idealism with guests who come in and who are idealistic, who are trying to change the world. And you will get me, Super Idealist. Tune in. We can't wait to hear from you. And you'll hear from me Saturdays from 10 to 11.
Hi, I'm Kelly Tankey.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
Tune in to AM 950's newest show, Searching for Service, a show designed to help current and future Rotarians find purpose through service.
We are dedicated to sharing stories, experiences, and opportunities for those searching for purpose, value, and meaning.
But more importantly, connection through community. Tune in Sundays at 3 p.m. or anytime via podcasts.
It's time to stop searching and start serving.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Sunshine today with a high of 78, then tonight clear with a low of 59. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
You're listening to the best of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm your host, Wakanja Hade, Distant Thunder. My colonized name is Robert Pilot. We discuss national and local Native American news and events. As we all know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
and also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, and we discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Ogama, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Yes, they are. And, just a quick story about MN350. I know when Dakota Access Pipeline protests were starting and the chairman asked us to come to Standing Rock and stand behind them with their oil pipeline being built there right on their reservation. MN350 was there right away, and that's when I first met them. We took a bus to Standing Rock with the youth and got to meet all these people, and we've been partnering ever since, and we're really happy to be partnering with them. And so without any I just wanted to say that without any further ado, Ogama, you're going to have the news that you don't hear anywhere else here right on Native Roots Radio. Welcome, Ogama.
Anim Buju, everybody. I'm Ogama Ganua-Kwe. I'm a citizen of the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota, and I have some news for you here on Native Roots Radio. We have information. There's a hybrid event going on both online and in person about ICWA. So if you don't know what ICWA is the Indian Child Welfare Act. And right now it's set to go forth to the Supreme Court in 2022 to determine whether or not portions of ICWA are considered, quote, unconstitutional, end quote. ICWA was established to protect Native children from being removed from their homes. And I believe we had Heather Keeler on earlier this week talking about how in Minnesota, the rate of children being taken from their families that are Native children is 17-1 compared to white families. And I know that the rate for our BIPOC relatives are also higher than the rate of white children that are taken and removed from their families. ICWA ensures that those children that are Native American are placed with the next available relative, and if not a relative, somebody who is also Native American, preferably from their tribe. There is a hierarchy and preference to protect those children from losing access to their culture and to their family, and that is currently under attack. So this hybrid event is happening next Thursday, October 22nd, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center on 15th Avenue in Minneapolis, and South 15th Avenue, and it's also available online. So if you are wanting to go and register for this event, it is free. It's completely free. You can go to eventbrite.com and you can search for ICWA, ICWA, under attack, and you will find that event. And you can also find the link and the information on the websites and social media for the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center. I don't believe that this is limited to people who are in Minnesota. So if you're nearby in Wisconsin and you want to drive into the Twin Cities, you could go to the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center, or you could just simply join up for their online conference. Again, really important conference and hybrid event on ICWA and how it's under attack and what we can do about it, presented by the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center, Thursday, October 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Time. Another really interesting thing that I found, Robert, that I can't even express how much I really love this artist. But are you familiar with the artist Lila June Johnston?
No, I'm not.
Lila June is a musician, and also she has spent the majority of the last few years working on her PhD dissertation about indigenous food systems. And she has a TED Talk that is phenomenal. She just released it earlier this month in October. I believe it was late last week it hit. The topic is called Architects of Abundance, Indigenous Food Systems and the Excavation of Hidden History. And basically her whole goal was to show how brilliant our indigenous ancestors were and also how brilliant we are still today, right? She is talking about coastal Salish nations and other tribes as as well that had these wonderful indigenous architectural systems that were able to grow food. And if you go and search for Lila June TEDx KC, you should be able to find it. It was not a hard thing to find, but it's really something to catch that. So I recommend, Robert, if you get some time, you should definitely check it out.
Yeah, definitely. And, too, when you were speaking about her TED Talk, I was thinking also all the medicines out there that were colonized in big pharma and all that. I mean, for sure, we like stuff, but there's stuff out there right now. And I was drinking flat cedar tea right when COVID came out,
Right, exactly. There's a lot of medicines that were stolen or derived from native ingredients, like birch provides the base medicine for aspirin. And there's also several others that are still, widely available. And I'm sure there are some that were either extinct or the knowledge of them has been lost due to colonialism. So those things are just as important as food. And it's important, if you know any of those medicines, to share your knowledge with people.
Exactly.
Don't hold it back. Another really interesting thing, Mark Ruffalo, we know actor and activist Mark Ruffalo, also known as the Hulk. Most people know him as the Hulk. He has been a really great ally to Native people, using his
voice,
his position, his voice as an actor to help Native communities. And he's just recently signed on as executive producer of an upcoming docu-series, so like a documentary, but it's a series, and it's going to explore the fight against systemic injustice for Native communities. It's just simply going to be called Natives, but it's the whole point is that they want to highlight the achievements of Indigenous activists and allies in what Ruffalo has said is the Native century, which is an era in which the younger and older generations of Natives can better get in touch with their cultural heritage, which would probably be the generation that we're in, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So this is really exciting, and Ruffalo has produced some other great films and documentaries. Earlier this year, he produced the documentary Lakota Nation versus United States, which helped to talk about the exploitation of Native people via colonization from the late 1400s all the way to the modern day. And there is going to be this upcoming docuseries called Natives. So I'm kind of excited to see what Mark Ruffalo is going to do with that. There's another film that's coming out that actually I might have talked about this in August, but it's spooky season, so I want to bring it up again. A filmmaker named Ryan Abrahamson is from the Spokane tribe in Washington, but he also created a film incorporating the Spokane culture and history, and it is a supernatural thriller that was also featuring Salish language and filmed in the Pacific Northwest. So really excited about this film, and you'll have to just touch base with me for just a minute here. I am looking for the title. I had it, and now I have lost track of the film title. But I'm sure that you should be able to catch it. Oh, here it is. It doesn't have a title just yet. So right now it's a short film that's set to air at the Spokane International Film Festival this spring. And he's hoping to get enough funding from that to make it a full-length feature film. So that is super exciting. And then just wanted to send out prayers for our Indigenous relative up in the stars right now, Nicole Mann, who is currently up at the International Space Station. So prayers up for her.
Good one. Hey, and Pinigigi Ogama for the news. We'll be right back after the short break. Stay with us.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff. Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Hi, Matt McNeil for Rudy Luther Toyota. You know, I've purchased my vehicles with Rudy Luther because I love my Toyota Sienna, but it's the extra things that make me a loyal Rudy Luther customer. A great example, the Luther Advantage Card. With every new and used vehicle purchase, you'll get 3 years of 10 cents off per gallon of gas at holiday station stores and $6 off the Works car washes. Plus, there are other great benefits too. The Luther Advantage Card keeps you happy in your Rudy Luther vehicle. Find out more at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio. I'm Ogama Ganua-Kwe. Tonight, instead of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, we have Native Roots Radio presents Rock the Vote Native Style. And I am co-hosting with our special guest host, Nancy Bolio, who is working on voting rights and treaty rights here in northern Minnesota. And Nancy Bolio has brought with her a wonderful guest tonight. We have Emily Rivera, who is an incumbent running for Bemidji City Council in northern Minnesota. And Nancy, I think you've got some questions for Emily tonight.
I do, but first and foremost, I just want to say, welcome again, Emily, and you're a fine example of what a good treaty person looks like. And one reason why we have our allies on the show is because many of our Native voters don't understand who to vote for, or most of the time it's just a career politician with a suit on and no face and a name on the ballot. But we brought you forth because we want people to know that we have wonderful allies like yourself. And I want you to share in our, maybe if you have a way that we can help support your campaign, share a little bit with your links or your Facebook page in the chat, and tell us quickly a little bit about your platform.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Miigwech, so much for allowing me to be here tonight. It's been an honor to be asked. A little bit about me. As you mentioned, I represent Ward 4 in the city of Bemidji, which is kind of a large expanse of the city, and it is an area that has just been near and dear to me because it's where I've lived most of my adult life, and it's a lot of the ward is wetland or has lake access, and so water quality issues, things like that are very important to me. And looking forward to, how is this community going to be able to be sustained in the future? We're stewards of this community at the lake, the water quality, being the first city on the Mississippi. So we have, I think, a greater responsibility to our natural resources here as things move south. We really need to, in my mind, lead the way when it comes to issues like environmental justice, issues like water quality, other items, not necessarily platform, because as a city council, we need to be a team, and so we all have our individual items that we're passionate about, but ultimately we are looking at issues that are related to, as you mentioned, just the daily lives of people here in the community, the water quality, the streets we drive on, all of the things that are our basic needs. And so just wanting to make sure that we are aware as we are making policy and decisions that we're considering all all of our populations. Not necessarily just the ones that are most often at the table, but those people that are just, as a social worker, I've worked with people who are just, doing their best to survive on a day-to-day basis, maintain their housing, keep the lights on, or survive without them on. And so how is our policy making impacting them? I know there's a lot of desire to maintain a tourism industry in Bemidji. There's a desire to see the community grow, but we are a pretty impoverished community, and so instead of maybe focusing on some of these bigger growth issues, I really want to keep focused on the people who are doing their best to just survive the day-to-day, and how do our policies impact them. So
right,
that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I think that's really important, Emily, because we just talked about this the other day, how people are just surviving from day to day, and they can't think about tomorrow, and it makes it difficult for them to be a part of this process. So my question to you would be, how will you work to get more Native people involved in their neighborhood organizations, their community, and in the political process? Because, from my own personal experience, it's been a challenge to deal with a majority of the city council, not you, but others. And it makes it really hard for us to be engaged in that process when we're not being heard. And this is exactly one reason why we're having this block party, is we want to show up, and we want to show up in a good way, but we want you all to listen. So how can you help that process?
Boy, that inclusivity is a piece to me that was really missing. That's why I ran for office the first time, is that, I really didn't believe that the voices that were coming to the table were the voices that represented our larger community very well. And so outreaching not just different individuals, but organizations where people are and people gather to, ask that, because it's very overwhelming to join, even if it's just one of the city committees or commissions. It's hard to come in as somebody who's, not traditionally been treated with the best acceptance and open arms. And how do you build that trust? How do you create that connection that's meaningful enough to make people want to come back? It's not just getting them there, but it's getting them coming back and being a part of the processes all the way through, from the initial, idea conception all the way to the end point. And so, outreaching is one way, but really building on those relationships that exist to encourage the other existing systems and people such as yourself to help people feel comfortable. Because if the leaders that do this type of work, such as yourself, don't feel comfortable, how can you ensure that other people will feel safe and comfortable? And so we really need to make very deliberate steps in this community to honor our residents and the people whose lives we affect with our decisions. And we need to be seeking those actively, whether it's outreach in a individual way. I don't have the answer. I wish I did to make it all happen, but I really feel like we have such great diversity in this community that it's a shame that we are trying to shape and develop policy without actively seeking more community input, and then also seeking it in a meaningful way that people feel safe coming forward.
Right. I think
is really important.
That we have to focus on intention. That is something, that's rooted into our work as an individual. How do we be just a good person overall? And I think, not just voting for people like you, it's also, being part of that civic engagement piece. But I think what we really need to focus on, though, is really getting our neighbors and our friends and spreading the word that we do have allies and relatives that are running for office, because again, it's up to us to elevate candidates like you. And when we learn how to play this game and play it better, we can actually get more of our aligned candidates into these positions, and then we can have the majority vote. And then when we capture that majority vote, that's where we could see change. And I think that's why I like to really, dig into this work and tell people we are that power, and it's really up to us to make people like yourself, show up in these kind of spaces. So I want you to tell us why we should support you, and what does that look like?
Well, that's a really great question, Nancy. Support for me is just trying to get the word out. Getting people to the polls on election day is really important. I'm very much doing this in the most simple fashion possible. Door knocking. I don't have any fancy shiny flyers or anything like that, because this type of office should be accessible. So all the clothes that people see me in when I go to a council meeting are thrift store clothes. All of the materials, I'm finding paper at rummage sales, so that I'm not, spending a lot of money doing this, because I want to be able to encourage people. Like, oh, I can't do that. Look, that person had to raise $30,000 to run for this office. And it doesn't have to be that way. You need passion. You need an interest in change. You need an interest in the community. And that's about it. The rest of it, you can find a way to make it happen. And so trying to show people that this type of office is accessible, I think is really important to me. And then encouraging people to start just getting involved in little ways, like showing up to your event, or, just even just being interested enough to listen, I think is so important, because you couldn't have told me 10 years ago that I would be in this spot. You wouldn't have been able to convince me that this would happen, because it takes a commitment to personal growth, for sure, but it turns introverts puts them into extrovert situations and things like that aren't necessarily comfortable. But that's what change is about, is not being comfortable, getting outside our comfort zone, and just making that change happen.
All right, we got about just one more minute before we wrap this segment up with you. And Emily, I want to give you a big shout out, to all of our relatives out there, that you are a wonderful ally. We're excited to have you down at the block party. So all you listeners out there, if you are close, please come and visit us on Saturday.
That would be great.
Hey, up next, we're going to have an interview with Robert Pilot and Heather Keeler. Stay tuned.
Be good.
Be good.
Hi, this is Desi Doyen of the Green News Report and the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
I'm John Peterson of Ferndale Market, and I'm the 3rd generation to grow turkeys on our family farm in Cannon Falls. We've grown them the same way since 1939, free range and without antibiotics. We're proud of the way our turkey tastes naturally, so we never add fillers or basting solutions, just 100% pure turkey. And we're proud to remain an independent family farm. Looking for an extra special addition to this year's Thanksgiving feast? Our fresh, never frozen turkeys remove the hassle of thawing and can be picked up just days before your celebration. Available at natural food stores across the region. Reserve your fresh, free-range Thanksgiving turkey for pickup at our store right on our farm in scenic Cannon Falls or at one of our retail partners. For more information on finding our Ferndale Market Thanksgiving turkey near you, visit us at ferndalemarket.com. That's ferndalemarket.com. Thank you for your support of local foods and farmers. We'll hope to see you at Ferndale Market soon. ferndalemarket.com.
Is your remote workforce putting your company at risk? Cyber criminals are targeting your employees with COVID-19 inspired emails and attacking businesses like yours. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. Rymark has the tools and expertise to enable your employees to work securely from home. If you need help getting your staff to work remotely and securely, call 651-328-8900 or go to rymarkit.com. That's 651-328-8900 or rymarkit.com.
The days are growing shorter and temperatures are getting colder. You know what that means. It's time to plan your unforgettable eagle viewing trip with the National Eagle Center. Spend a Saturday afternoon with the experts viewing bald and golden eagles in the heart of Eagle territory. Travel by coach bus to multiple eagle hotspots and receive engaging informational programming along the way. Trips last 4 hours and minimal walking is required. Learn more and register online today at nationaleaglecenter.org/eagle-viewing.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Sunshine today with a high of 78, then tonight clear with a low of 59. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Bonjour, I am Oshawashko Gajig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents Rock the Vote Native Style. I'm Ogama Ganua standing in for Robert Pilot, but we do get to have him in spirit here this evening. Robert was able to have a quick interview with Representative Heather Keeler from District 4A, I believe. I think that's still it after redistricting. So I'm just going to go ahead and play that interview for you all now. Welcome.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots.
I don't know.
Right. So, I mean, you know, I see you're not only campaigning, but you're reaching out to Indian country and doing things for your community. Can you tell us a little bit what you've been doing the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Because I am technically still a state representative, even though we're right in the middle of campaigning. One of the things that's really hard is as state representatives in the state of Minnesota is we're up for re-election every 2 years, which kind of feels like, in a sense, we're always in campaign mode. But then also in this time, when we're 20 days out or even 2 months out from election, people kind of stop doing the actual work. And I actually really love the work. That's what I am elected to do. And so I went out and did official visits up in Red Lake, in Leech Lake, and in White Earth a couple weeks ago, visiting, like spending whole entire days in their communities, getting tours of their community projects that they're doing, meeting with their tribal council, but also spending time in all of their tribal colleges, learning what their students need. Again, higher education is a thing I'm super passionate about. But it's been really interesting to go out and sit and listen to our tribes and our leaders, because, you know, it's funny, Robert, because when I started to reach out to say, hey, can I come out and spend some time with you and learn what your issues are and learn how we can work together? The original response, you know, they were kind of caught off guard, like, what, you want to come and like spend time with us for more than an hour? And I'm like, yeah, take me to all your cool places. What projects do you have that are thriving? What are things we need to invest in? What are things that we've totally missed from a state perspective, because again, back to that liaison, mind frame is that I'm here to listen to the communities and help them learn, and support the changes that we need to make. And so, ICWA compliance comes to the top of our minds a lot. Obviously, like protecting our sovereignty is where it's really at, and honoring our treaties and making sure that we have people in decision-making seats that really deeply understand the rooted history in that. But ICWA, once again, they're coming after our kids through a systematic genocide. Minnesota is #1 in the nation for removal of Native American children by 17 it's 17 to 1. 17 Native American children to every one white child is removed in the state of Minnesota, which is just extremely unacceptable to me. And we heard that loud and clear from our tribal nations, and we will be addressing, the compliance issues that we have with DHS. And I'm kind of sensing that all of us are over, well, we need to do better. Well, we're sorry we didn't do that. Like you're messing with our kids for too many generations. And we're just absolutely putting our foot down in that space for sure.
Yeah, it's coming around, and I think we haven't even talked about the national politics of Roe versus Wade, but they have the Republicans have told us what they're going to do, and gay marriage is on the chopping block. I mean, again, this is the most important. I think there should be no off-year election. Every year is important, and Democrats need to know that, and we outnumber them. I heard we outnumber them 3-1. And we just got to ignite our base. And that's why having you on and speaking your truth is so powerful, because you're in the trenches. And they've told us what they're going to do. So we need to get out the vote.
Right. And I think too, it's important to challenge the party that we're a part of. I have a D behind my name. I'm a Democrat, as it says on the ticket. But to be really truthful, I'm unapologetically Indigenous first in every space that I'm in. And, I would flat out say that our Democratic Party doesn't do a great job at supporting and deeply understanding, our tribal nations and advocating for them in a way that I believe that we have to. And so I like to be the thorn kind of in the space that continues to challenge us in those areas, because again, representation matters. And if I'm the only one at the table at the time, I'm going to have to find the courage to have the voice to say, we're not doing right by our tribal nations. And we have codified tribal consultations that we're supposed to be having these relationships with our tribal nations. And I'm just kind of sick of the lip service that we keep doing. And I'm really here to hold our own party accountable to our tribes as well. And that's part of why, we're working with community leaders and elders to put on events up in our tribal nations, like we are up in Red Lake on Friday, the 21st, just to engage our communities so that they know how to uplift their voice and know that they're deeply respected in this work, at least for some of us. And that's the best that I guess we can continue to do, right? We have to challenge our own selves sometimes. My dad used to always say, you can point the finger at everybody else. The only person you can change is yourself. And I think that as a party, we can point the finger in other spaces, but really, you're only best when you challenge yourself and grow in the most best ways.
Well, I always told students that when you're pointing the finger, you're pointing 3 back at yourself. So, but I got to just say this, you may be a thorn in the side of some people, but I know people come up to me randomly, probably because they know we know each other from the radio show and we're both Native, like Howard came up to me. I've told you this a couple of years ago and just said, Heather is knocking the ball out of the ballpark. And I didn't even ask him, how's Heather doing? No, he just came up and told you that. So the doers know what you're doing. And, the people that aren't or don't.
I think that there's what I've learned in my first 2 years is there's self-sacrificing and self-serving legislators. And there's some of us that really go to bat. It's hard to be really humble in our teachings, but also I think it's important to recognize the amount of work that goes into what it means to be a greater Minnesota member. I drive 3.5 hours one way in crazy weather to get to my job to do this work. I stay and work massive amounts of hours, both when I'm in St. Paul and when I'm back in my communities and out in tribal communities, trying to be a good representative for all of these communities that matter. So yeah, you start to realize who's showing up in spaces. When you're working a whole lot, you realize you look around and not everybody works the way that some of us do.
Well, that's a really, really good point, because even me running around all these things that are happening in the community, you can see who's showing up and who's not, or who's showing up for a photo op and who's not. I used to be the selfie king until I became legislator for Ho-Chunk, and now I've really relaxed on that. But some people come for selfies and then leave, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is great. Bringing awareness to activities and events that we're doing is fun. But the real work, is really behind the scenes, and it's important to see and recognize and support the people who are doing the work in that capacity.
I don't know if you want to, we got 3 minutes left, and I don't know if you want to go a little gray here, but I know I mentioned you're a mother, an entrepreneur. Do you want to mention anything about your business? Because I think it's really exciting to know. Well, I think it's really exciting to know you don't sleep, obviously, but you also have a business too. You want to just touch on that before we let you go?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things about being a legislator is I did have to leave my full-time job that I was working at NDSU. And so it provided the opportunity to have some time in the year to launch a dream of mine, which I launched Two Feathers Consulting. I call it Indigenous Infused consulting. So I do keynote speaking, breakout sessions, professional development, and then I do community cultural advising for individuals who are maybe looking to develop programs or implement activities in the areas of education, healthcare, and community engagement, just because those are the nets and the areas that I've worked in my career for the last 25 years. So taking these conversations, one of my favorite keynotes is actually Indigenous 101, all the things you didn't learn in K-12, really talking about, from Turtle Island to now, what has systematic genocide kind of looked like over time, and what does it still continue to look like? How can communities engage and ignite in healing and restoration in this relationship between settlers and the Indigenous people? So I really like that. And then I'm launching my own podcast to kind of be in a world of motivation. I like the lens of policy, making changes there. I like the lens of education, helping people to learn that. But then I also really thrive in areas to motivate our next generation through seeing and knowing our stories. Once we break through glass ceilings, I think it's extremely important that we leave glass crumbs for the next generation, so that once we're here and we make the journey and the pathway, that our next generations and relatives can really see that. And I think growing up, I really could have used some motivation in my life, or some uplift, or some hope. And so just trying to leave that in our communities as well. So that's kind of the, I guess, holistic view of who Heather is, and all the areas that I'm really trying to actively make change.
Well, that's awesome. And I just want to let you know and remind you too, we have a huge audience in Wisconsin. Shoot out that website, and people all over Turtle Island can have your Two Feathers come and work with their organization.
Yep. So it's twofeathersllc.com. Two Feathers is spelled out. We're Indigenous owned, and it's really me. It's an effort to really create a legacy movement. Two Feathers is because I am a mom of two boys. And at the end of the day, when I'm really tired and feel frustrated and just don't have the ambition to do things, I remember that there's next generations that are really relying on us to continue to show up. So I would love any support or any opportunities in the communities to just engage.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. I know you're busy, and this is very important that we talk to our base and fire them up, and you do that automatically, and you do that on our show. So thank you, State Representative Heather Keeler.
Wow, wonderful interview from Robert Pilot with Minnesota State Representative Heather Keeler from District 4A. We're here with Nancy Bolio from from Minnesota MN 350, and we're here with Native Roots Radio presents Rock the Vote Native Style on Civic Media Network. We'll be right back with Representative Jamie Becker Finn from Minnesota as well, and we will see you after the break. Stay tuned on Native Roots Radio presents Rock the Vote Native Style on the Civic Media Network.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
We are living in a critical time for Indian country. Climate chaos threatens our land, water, and communities. Voting is one way we can protect our planet for future generations. Voting creates a collective power in the fight for our future. Have one-on-one conversations with your friends and family to make sure that they're making informed voting choices. Voting is our voice. This November, NADKI is asking us to stand together and make voting a tradition. Go to makevotingatradition.org to learn more and to make your pledge to vote. Hi, this is Robert Pilot here telling you about Minnesota Native American art. Did you know that Twin Cities is known for Native art? Well, if you're not familiar, then check out All My Relations Arts. It's a program that seeks to increase the visibility and value of these incredibly talented American Indian artists in all forms of art while honoring the history and the presence of indigenous cultures. And right now, All My Relations Arts is showcasing Rosie Seamus Dance, She Who Lives on the Road to War. This is an immersive installation dance performance created by Rosie Seamus in response to global loss and the collective need to come together in peace and reconciliation. She Who Lives on the Road to War is a place for visitors to rest, grieve, console, and meditate. Performances will take place through mid-December. Find the performance schedule at allmyrelationsarts.com. I love all the indigenous art here in the Twin Cities, and I hope you can enjoy it too. allmyrelationsarts.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents Rock the Vote Native Style. I'm here with Nancy Bolio from MN 350, and who's here as a treaty activist and voting rights activist, who's brought on the wonderful and absolutely amazing Representative Jamie Becker Finn from Minnesota. Welcome, Jamie and Nancy. I will let you take over.
Right. Again, we have another relative running for re-election. Jamie Becker Finn. She is a Leech Lake band member. She's an attorney, educator, and a small business owner. And she believes that regular people can work together to achieve positive change in our communities. And she also believes in hope and continuing to work towards a better future for everyone. And again, I want to remind you guys, voting is one way we build Native power, and why we show up and vote on November 8th for wonderful candidates, powerhouses like Jamie Becker Finn. So welcome, Jamie.
On in.
Yeah, you're out door knocking again.
Yeah, I'm in the car, but I warned Nancy before I got on. It's cold enough now that when I'm out door knocking and keeping track of everything on my phone, it like sucks the juice out of my phone. So I think I got enough to hang on for the interview.
Right.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're such a veteran at this. You were elected back in 2016. And so, I've, like I mentioned in the past, I've seen a couple of your videos and you really speak truth. And, this is just one more reason why we really need to encourage our relatives, our friends, and our neighbors to get out there and vote, because when we don't get to elevate people like yourself, and then we lose a place at the table. And so, I want you just to share with people how you plan to engage our communities, our Native communities, in this political process. Because thinking about the Bloc Party this weekend, we're not just registering people to vote. We're going to build power, and we want to do that in a good way, and we want to go to these meetings and support people like yourself, so how would you encourage people to be a part of this political process?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely voting. And I think especially post redistricting, we kind of had this conversation in a more academic level about what it means with redistricting. But, we have a race in the congressional district in the 8th district where all of our northern tribes are in the same district. And we really could make an impact if folks showed up to vote. We've got a good ally, I think, in Jen Schultz, who's running. And I think, we've got the event going on in the Bemidji area this weekend. Reed Olson is a great candidate. We've got Alan Roy and Erica Bailey Johnson, who are both Native, running. And, Reed too has really been, I think, an ally and a friend to a lot of Native folks, and especially like lower income folks. That's really been the heart of his work. So, they always talk about polling, and it's like I always question that, when the kind of higher ups within the party talk about polling, and I'm like, well, how many Native folks did you talk to? Because we don't typically get included in those polls. And so the way that we show up, when those numbers are really high in those precincts where we know our Native communities are located, that not only can that make a difference in who gets elected, but that sends the message that we are not to be trifled with, and that we have that political power, and that, the only way we show folks that we have that power is to wield it. And so that's super important, especially in our tribal communities, not just in, our urban Native community, but especially in our tribal communities.
Right. And I think it's really important, that we spread that message that we have to assert our right to exist. And how do we do that? And it's, as much as we don't want to be political, it is political. And even, the best thing I think that we have to stand on is defending our treaties and our right to assert those rights. And I think, moving forward, we see a lot of the candidates, our allies that are aligning with the treaty obligations, that are still very much alive today. And I think what's really important that we continue to show up, even though we've, in the past, many times our words have fallen deaf ears, but we're learning how to play this game, Jamie, and people.
Right. Well, and when we win, or when they're in office because of us, they know it. And I think that's really important, because then, it's different. Once you're, getting somebody elected is one thing, but then holding them accountable to the promises and the things they say they're going to do. If they know that the reason they're in office is our communities, that is a built-in mechanism for them to be more accountable to our communities long term. And so it's, people always say, oh, rural Minnesota, we're never going to win seats that hold our values anymore. And it's, it's like, bet against us, and I think the only way we prove them wrong is to show up and vote and prove them wrong. And that's really what I'm hoping to see, in I represent a suburban community now, mostly non-Native folks, but, certainly been engaged in my home community up in the Cass Lake Bemidji area, and making sure all my cousins and all my relatives are getting out to vote. And that's what we need folks to do.
Right. And we have to understand that the Native population can make or break a campaign, but it's really up to us to show up and vote, because again, it is our voice that's being heard when we vote. And that's one way we build that power. And, moving past November 8th, one of the biggest takeaways we're going to get from that block party is, how do we show up after November 8th? How do we be engaged? Because again, we just don't vote and go home. We have to hold those candidates accountable, like you mentioned earlier. And I think, being a delegate to the DFL party, even though I don't like to identify as a DFLer, I'm actually a treaty person, and treaties are nonpartisan. So I show up as a treaty person. But what like people to know is, again, we define some of these things as long as we show up. And if we don't show up, nothing happens. And so, yeah, I would hope that Jamie has time to come up and visit us on Saturday, but I know you're busy with your campaign. But it was wonderful to see you up here. What was that? What were we doing that?
It was right after the Dobbs decision, when there's a pro-choice rally in the Bemidji area. I was able to coincide that with other. I think there's a powwow that weekend too. So, yeah, I try to get back home with my kids so they can be in our community too. I think my son will actually be up hunting this coming weekend, deer hunting. So, but I'll probably be down here between the campaign and my small business. But I hope a lot of folks show up, and I think I'm glad that they're doing the event, and I think it'll be good.
It will be good, and we're gonna actually help people get to the polls, and we're gonna teach people to be civically engaged, because I think that's part of our personal growth as constituents, as people, and it's a good way to defend our treaties and be heard and continue to learn, play the world of politics and get better at it. Because just 8 years ago, I had no clue to any of this, and I learn something new every time. And this is what I want to share with other people, that we matter, we're still here, and we are going to build on power.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the power we each have as an individual to show up and vote.
Right. Is there anything you can do to help you, in these last few weeks of your campaign?
Honestly, like, if you have any energy, let's help those candidates in our tribal communities up north. Like, it makes my heart hurt that my home community is represented by someone who actively has disdain for my community. So let's put all our efforts into making sure Reed Olson and Erica Bailey Johnson and Alan Roy, that we show up for them.
Right. And we also have the Bemidji City Council. We have Lee Riviera, we got Audrey Thayer, and then when you think about the county board, we got Sumners, we got Joe Gould, we got Mark Morrissey. They're not all Native, but you know what? They're about the same values that we hold. So, and I think that's why it's important that we know who these people are and we make time to vote. And again, you find your candidates, find out who they are, do your research, and make an informed voting decision, because it really does matter.
Yeah,
absolutely. Wonderful show, Nancy. Thank you, to you both, Nancy Dolio and Jamie Becker-Finn. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents Rock the Vote Native Style on Civic Media Network.
Hi, all.